Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Notes to Self Taylor's Design School alumni session. So my name is Sirat, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we begin, I'm very excited to introduce our guest to you today. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction about her. So Chia Yee Hsean, or Sam, graduated with a BA and honors in graphic communication design at Taylor's University in 2019. At the design school, she was known for her hardworking attitude, her talent for quirky, memorable illustrations, and as a good communicator. She was also known to shed a tear or two. Upon graduation, Sam worked at LIE or Lai Studio for 3 years. Lai Studio is known for its offbeat, fun, modern, visually entertaining, and contemporary graphic design. Lai Studio works across a diverse range of visual communication projects and is headed by Art Director Driv Loo. As a designer at the studio, Sam designed visual identities and brand collaterals for clients like UOA Group, Niko Neka, and Mossery. She created illustrations to enhance client branding. She worked in set design and was involved in several photo shoots. She also assisted in the copywriting for brand collaterals. She has just left Lai Studio and is presently deliberating on her next move in her career. Sam is also the editor of Search magazine, which debuted with its first volume in 2021. Search magazine is an independent graphic design magazine that seeks to uncover and investigate the designs, subcultures, and change makers that are reshaping the creative landscape of Southeast Asia. Aside from the mention, Sam is also a co-director of the KL Art Book Fair, a multi-day event that showcases and celebrates the printed medium community, while also bringing together the local creative art scene. Sam's involvement in this event was multidisciplinary and she had to wear many hats. So without further ado, I now pass the floor to Sam to put forward her notes to self-presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sirat, for that introduction. That was like the equivalent of standing there while everyone sang happy birthday to you. But thank you, I really appreciate it. Right, let me just really quickly share my screen and then we can get started. Right, so, very quickly, just to like explain the title. Shit. Okay, yeah, you already know what I look like anyways. So the title notes to self, it came about because I do a lot of self-reflection and I've been doing a lot of that for the past 3 years. So I've basically been like collecting a lot of these mental notes and self-reflections and I'll be sharing some of them with you today and you'll get to read them. So hence notes to self, but you can read them too. And I hope you get something out of them. So this is me. Also, if I'm going too fast, someone just stop me, let me know. And here's a little bit background info. So I've been drawing since childhood, but I actually didn't take, I was actually studying science up until high school. So it was only like since college, I've only been doing art like seriously for a very short period of my whole life, I guess, like professionally speaking. And I just left like Sirat has mentioned, I just left my previous job back in January. So I'm currently on a break. And that's why I have time to like talk to you guys here today. So and since then I've just been really indulging myself in like my hobbies like history, visual culture, baking, film photography. I also occasionally write. I'm an occasional writer, emphasis on the occasional. And Mr. Vinod has never forgotten that because he keeps asking me to like write something for Creative Beats, which I will. I want to write, but I just don't know what to write about yet. I'll get that. Sorry, Mr. Vinod. Anyways, I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to me share about my work. I will try to make this worth your time. There'll be like 4 main sections to this talk. So first is like the official work stuff that I've been doing at Lai. And then I'll be sharing a little bit of like personal work before I go into those notes, those notes that I've been talking about. So let's get started. So yes, as Sierra has mentioned, I worked at Lai. It's an acronym for Little Ideas Every Day. and it was started by my boss, Driv Loo, back in like 2011. It's a really small studio. So there's like, I was working there from May 2019 to January this year, 2022. That's almost 3 years. And with this photo, there was like, this was considered when we were at our largest. I think at one point the most we've had was like 5 graphic designers, not including my boss. So yeah, and actually started out as an intern. I interned there first, back when I was still a student at Taylor's. That was back in 2018, before I started to work there full time. And like, yeah, we work on visual identity projects, and these span across several different industries. So we have like our usual cafe, F&B. There's stationery brands. I think if some of you recognize the one on the bottom left corner, that's for the Mossery gifting campaign back in 2019, and we designed the gift box. Sometimes we work for events. Events need branding. Like I think there was like a music festival. I forgot the name, but I didn't work on that. But yeah, events, F&B, cafes, packaging, stationery brands, property developers like UOA, because like with UOA, sometimes you need like the wayfinding signages that you see around the mall, things like that. So that's what I've been like. This is a very brief overview. I'm not going to go through all of my projects today. Just maybe I will highlight 3 of my favorites. So aside from all this branding stuff, we also sometimes we also do illustration work for them. We have quite a few illustrators on the team, and sometimes they need brand mascots, icons, graphic elements, and like just simple spot illustrations. For example, these were for Japanese fine dining restaurant, very fancy restaurant in KL that's famous for their cheesecake. I think some of you can guess who it is, but they didn't end up going with this. So that's why I'm showing it here today. So they wanted to open a sister outlet, like a kiosk that was very much inspired by streetwear culture, catering to like younger audiences. That's why they look the way they do. Like these look like you might spot them on a t-shirt or something. So yeah, illustration work. This is how I'm gonna introduce the first main project that I want to highlight today. So these are like some very retro illustrations that you're seeing here for a project that never took off, because so sometimes clients, they want to start their own product line. So sometimes that means they need illustrations for t-shirts and tote bags and whatnot. And you can see the words like daily goods, Malacca, daily fix. So these were actually for a scrapped project by Daily Fix. It's that famous cafe in Malacca that like serves the pandan pancakes. I haven't been there since I took up this project, since I finished completing it and everything and wrapped it up. I haven't been able to set foot in the cafe because there's always so many people. But yes, they approached us because they've been doing their own branding for a while. And they've been like DIYing it themselves, social media and stuff, but they've been wanting to expand, and that's why they approached us for help. So with this expansion, one of the first things that we worked on was like their own line of roast beans. So it's like just very simply called the Daily Fix Coffee Roaster. And we've provided like all the packaging, name cards and whatnot. So you can see that the like numbers here on the packaging, and it's simply because it's like inspired. The overall concept was inspired by those calendars, and you could just like so basically with roasting, they need to indicate the exact roast date so that you know the freshness of your beans. So we figured we should just like slap the whole calendar on it, and they could just like like mark the exact roast date. So yeah, that was the whole concept lah. And they just wanted something really fun. That's why it's really colorful, pretty straightforward. Although, yeah, so there's like grids, circles, lines. And yeah, I don't have the drafts. I don't know how to prove it to you, but like this went through so many rounds. And I'm just glad that we managed to wrap this up. So after this, after we wrapped this up, then we moved on to like the actual cafe. So with the cafe, they're not asking for a complete overhaul of the look and whatnot. They're very happy with, I think like they already have like a very loyal following and they don't really want to disrupt that. So we're just coming in to help them sort of refresh the brand and whatnot. So that meant like also they want, you can see in this photo there's like a kombucha. They were planning to like start their own product line. So yes, that's why we had to, firstly in the center, we updated the main logo. And then we also created some secondary new secondary logos, all the ones I see around the site for for them to use throughout the cafe, whether it's menus, name cards, store cards, and so forth. Just a bit of everything because like they wanted to capture they wanted to like stay true to their roots, you know, Malacca being this like historical port, multicultural influences, blah, blah, blah. Then we also had to create the individual product labels for like, the stuff that they want to sell. And they had everything. They had like hot sauce, jams, spreads, kombucha, cold pressed juice. I think they had like I probably like memorized the entire product line after working on this for so long. But yes, so yeah, new name cards if they need it. I don't know if they've printed it yet. Yes, so yes, granola. They even have granola now, and we created the label and like the illustrations that you see. Like oh shit, oops, yeah. Vector illustrations. After working on this project for so long, I don't hate it, and I don't hate vector illustrations anymore, which goes to show just how long I worked on it. Yeah, not exaggerating, like they had so many things. These are just some of the other. I really like the hot sauce. The hot sauce is my favorite. It's really cute. Yeah, so just showing that to you. Yeah, not exaggerating. The photo on the right, that's what my photo gallery looked like for the entire few months. It's just like, you know the struggle, right? You're like sending feedback to your boss on WhatsApp, and it's just like rows and rows of like screenshots and whatnot. So these were the very early drafts before we arrived to, you know, what you see here today. And these all look nice. Like these are the end results. But I would say that like we probably spent a whole year on this project alone, just like that constant back and forth with the client, and then halfway through, we had to start over because like the previous stuff just wasn't cutting it, and then we had to like the client and us just like sat down like, okay, we need to start over. Like I think there's like we just weren't like getting on each other's like wavelengths, so we had to like reset, sit down and think about like what they actually want to say before we like tried again. And I think like if you imagine like working for 6 months on this project, and then like the client calls up your boss one night and say like, hey, like I don't think this is working. It sounds like a breakup. I'm so glad they didn't break up with us. But yeah, like I remember feeling very disappointed with myself. Like this was probably, I think this was like maybe I was already working at the studio for like 1.5 years. I remember feeling really like demotivated. It felt like, oh, like this is my fault. It's like, oh shit, like I messed up this time. And but luckily, like, I mean, looking at the end results, I'm glad I pulled myself together and delivered and like wrapped up the project. but I just wanted to point out that there's a lot of trial and error, and it's normal. I think all my projects have some degree of like just constant back and forth trial and error. I definitely learned a lot from this project, and my vector illustration skills just like increased by 200%. So yeah, that's daily fix for you. Visually, it's like one of my favorite projects. I do love my retro labels. So moving on, the next one is the Niko Neka tea bags. So I just in case anyone here isn't familiar, Niko Neka, they started out as like this matcha artisanal matcha cafe. Their first branch was in Bangsa, and they also aside from like the cafe, like they actually sell their matcha powders, hojicha, and their tea bags. So before the tea bags, the founder actually approached us to redo their store brochure. So it's a brochure that like they just give out to people who buy something at the shop. And he was very happy with, like, I think he was basically quite satisfied with our service, with the results, and that's why he approached us to do a bunch more projects after that. So one of them being the tea bags, because so I know Niko Neka has this like really like clean minimalist brand image, and I'm not sure if anyone knows this, but it's actually because there's two founders, and the founder that we were talking to, Shun, he's the one who like did everything by himself, even though his background is in engineering, so it's really impressive that he managed to pull all of that off. But like there were limitations like in regards to his skills, I guess. Like that's why he asked us for help, and like that's why unfortunately we could like help him like achieve his vision. So the tea bags, previously they were glass jars, and with glass jars they're very bulky, they're heavy, so they're prone to that means they're prone to breaking during transport, and they also just take up a lot of space. Every time they try to ship it to a grocery shop, I think maybe like there will be at least a few that broke during transport. That's why they wanted to try a package, like just a simple paper packaging. But yes, so but obviously like with Shun, the founder, he doesn't want to do anything that has been done before. So we had to come up with this very abstract, very sculptural box, and the lines that you see, the little like kind of torn, cascading, embossed lines, those were inspired by an actual paper sculpture piece that they have in the Bangsa shop. Let me show you. Yeah, you can see like these paper torn edges. So we just sort of like applied them onto the box, and we actually already applied them to the brochure that I mentioned before, and he was really happy with the results. I don't have a photo, but like basically he decided like, oh my god, okay, let's do it for the rest. So yeah, they working with Niko Neka was very different from working with all the other clients, because I mentioned the founder Shun. He has very strong opinions, very clear vision of like what he thinks will suit the brand image. And so this is one of those very rare instances where the client knew exactly what they wanted. So like I appreciated that. That was a really nice change of pace, because sometimes, actually most of the time, clients, they come to us because they don't know what they want, and they want us to help them figure it out based on their interests and whatnot. So this was more of it felt more like a collaboration, and that's why the results are much different. They're much stronger, because there's equal input from both us, the design side, and as well as the client side. And yeah, we're all like really good friends with the founder now. So yeah, I um I don't know what kind of impression I give. I'm patient. I'm a patient person, but I have my limits. So this was all I was doing for MCO. And this is like, you can see on the photo on the right, there's like there's like this thinner version of like, that was like an earlier version of what the box would have been. So it's like, it would have been like a sort of standing like envelope. So yeah, this was all I was doing during MCO. My table was like flooded with boxes and prototypes. Fun times. Okay. Yeah, really tested my patience there. Then after the after the tea box, we're really like the founder was really like starting to get picking up the pace now. So it's like, okay, I want you guys to do my cafe. So oh no, it's a cafe based in the SS2 area where the Niko Neka founder was involved. He basically collaborated with his sort of barista friend, and like the cafe was supposed to marry both the best of like coffee and matcha and like put it into one store. I don't remember if like the name Ono had any meaning, but I think he just wanted it because it sounded special and like no one had it. But it like, yeah. Okay, so right. Ono. So again, you can see that like the look and feel of the cafe, you can tell that like the Niko Neka founder is involved. Like he's really into that sort of minimalism, like abstract, macam like art gallery kind of like look and feel. And I'm just gonna like really quickly show you some of the applications that we've done for them. So if anything anything a cafe might need. So that's like paper bags, menus. The menu, I remember him wanting it to be like, because they had like a monthly coffee menu that would change. So we had to like figure out how to like make it so that they can like easily unscrew the menu and they could like slot in the new menu and things like that. Yeah, and like, okay, so if you see the photo where there's like the bar counter and there's like two logos, so that's again like, because one side, the green counter is where they make the matcha, and then the brown marble counter is where they make the coffee. And that's why there are two logo marks, because like one is supposed to like represent the matcha and the other is supposed to represent the coffee. But I think he usually uses the one on the left, the matcha logo mark. That's like the primary logo mark, and then sometimes they use the other one. So that's, and yeah, so we created the logo mark, logo type, menu, toilet signages. A lot of people like the toilet signage, yeah. And like just and like smaller stuff like the sandwich wrappers that they use to like wrap your sandwiches. Yeah, super clean, super modern. I forgot what I wanted to say here. Oh, okay, right. So yes, the tagline was when two worlds collide, because like yes, marrying both coffee and matcha. I'm just gonna really quickly show you some of the early drafts where we tried to capture this tagline, having two different concepts, two different items, and like combining them together, or like, so yes, very, very different from the end result. Some of these were from Driv, some of these were from me. The final logo that you see, that was, they ended up choosing Driv's option, because I think mine was like, I'll show you later, like mine looked very different. Okay, so yeah, just showing you, you can see we're trying to like maybe combine the two O's, like, oh, maybe the first O is like coffee, and the second O is like matcha, and we can like somehow combine them together. Yeah, this was one of the earlier options done by Driv. So if I remember correctly, he was like trying to like have the O's have them in like slightly different shapes, because yeah, coffee, then the hexagon shape would be the matcha, blah blah blah. This was mine. So you can see that it's a very different. I think what I wanted to do with like the end, because it's you know, there's that symbol where you draw to like, oh, this is included. I don't know how to explain it, but like basically the end would somehow expand to like, I'm not making any sense right now, but like basically this is what I did. It's much more masculine. It's very kind of like space age, if that makes sense. But also very brutalist, very like Swiss kind of like Dutch design. I don't know how to explain, but like yeah, this is like what we came up with. And they didn't choose it, which is fine. I think the final one that they went with like really kind of suited them, and it sort of it blends in well into like the rest of the family, Niko Neka. Yeah. So yeah, these were like the 3 projects that I wanted to highlight. Because these were the ones that I learned the most from. A lot of the others were just like bread and butter stuff, daily stuff that like, yeah, making signage, making toilet signages. So not much to like talk about there. I hope I didn't go too fast, but yeah, so that's for like official work stuff. So now I'll just, and then like really quickly, I just want to talk about this sort of side project that we have in the studio to help us maintain our sanity. It's because we have a risograph machine, and it's not even secondhand, it's third hand. So it's very old, and a lot of the parts might just suddenly like not work that day. So we only use it for ourselves. We can't like help people. We can't really help people print. So the Lion zine is just like very. It's not even. Yeah, it really depends. Like sometimes in a year we might put out 3, and then the next year we might only put out 1. But yeah, it's basically just for us to play around with our illustrations. We'll choose a theme for that one issue, and then we'll just kind of go off from there. So the one in this photo here, that's like our most recent zine from last year. That was to celebrate our 10th anniversary. And it was really cute because we put up a story on Instagram, like asking people to tell us about a lie that they told. Like it could be recent, it could be from their childhood, but like a very memorable, very funny like lie that they told. And then we turned them all into illustrations. So yeah, that was cute. This is one of those times where I really get to like inject my sense of humor or just have fun with the illustration, with the work. The one on the left, that was for our stay-at-home issue. That was when we were in like the thick of like MCO. So that's all like, yeah. And then the one on the right, I drew that for the anniversary issue. And it's based off an actual, oh shit, I forgot the guy's name, but it's based off an actual artwork. It was because the lie was that I didn't tell anyone, but you can see that the guy is kind of like, it kind of goes down the line, and like you get all these different reactions from people finding out, and then finally reaches to the person, and then like the person calls him out for it. But like, haha. Okay. So yeah, oh, this one. Okay, so how we divide the workload is that with we kind of like, okay, this issue, Nick, you're in charge. This issue, Sam, you're in charge. And that means that you're in charge of like kind of designing the cover and figuring out like the curating the content. And also just kind of like chasing everyone, like, where are my illustrations? Like, we need it for the zine. So that's the job. I was in charge of the Bangkok issue. So we had just came back from Bangkok for a company trip. And I decided to like put my boss face on the front cover because I'm in charge. It's actually based off of those very, it's because you know, like Asian like medicine labels, they always put like the founder's face like slap dab right in the middle. So this was like based off an actual local product. I forgot what it was for. Probably like might have been for like, yeah, you know what, I already forgot. But so I put everyone's face on the cover, and like there are like little quotes and there's a lot more words in this issue because I was in charge, so I could like write all these little anecdotes and jokes in them. My face is at the back because we ran out of space on the front. So it happens. So yeah, then there was like a little menu that I compiled all of the places that we went to for food with like food images and whatnot. And then the one with like the wingdings, the little blue and white paper at the bottom, like that's like a bonus pamphlet. So it's just talking about all the funny stuff that happened, like all the celebrity sightings that we spotted, and yeah, just and extra photos, bits and bobs. I really like sneaking in all these little Easter eggs into my work. Mostly for myself. I don't know if anyone actually catches these Easter eggs, but it's always fun. So yeah, lion. All right. Search. Time to plug this magazine. So so Search is like, yeah, it's a Southeast Asia graphic design magazine. Something that we personally, we meaning like me and my boss, we don't really see often enough within the region, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's like a lot more out there, but like specifically within Malaysia, we weren't seeing any of this. So on one hand, my boss, he's been wanting to put out, like it's one of his dream projects to like put out his own magazine out there about graphic design. And he knew that I was interested in publication and like and writing in general. So that's why he roped me in for this. And I was very happy to like be involved. So I'm just gonna show you some images. Yeah. The cover, it's just an amalgamation. It's just a combination of like all of the people, all the artists, the artworks and quotes that were featured in the actual magazine. And yeah, so that's basically like the whole visual language of the magazine. My boss made it very like DIY, a little bit of like that punk aesthetic, where it's like grid marks, texture, overlay. And for the cover, you can see that like it's a little, there's like a little cutouts. Yeah. So it's like really, yeah, very grungy sort of. So there were a few sections of how we approached the content was that, so the theme was independence, and we, based on that theme, we had to write the brief that we would send out to people to like respond to, like, hey, this is our theme. Do you have an article that you want to write about that falls under this theme? So we had to, I worked a lot on that brief, like setting the parameters of like the project and such, definitions. And then after we sourced the content, we gathered all this content, and then we identified the patterns, and then we divided them into the corresponding sections. So the first one being feature means like, yeah, feature articles. So like that's our the two main people that we interviewed that we wanted to feature. And then the second section was case studies. So that's just yeah, it's in the title. So we kind of interviewed some of our friends and told them to like, yeah, really just give us all the details that like went into this project. Yeah, the case study. The third one, the one that you see says glossing multilingualism. So those are like the article section. So, but we called them observation. The section was called observation. So it's just to like explore alternative like narratives where like is there a different way to think about independence? Like, or what does independence mean to personally to this artist, to this designer? Things like that. So, and then finally showcase. Showcase is a bit more, much more photos. It's really just like a showcase of like artists and designers around the Southeast Asian region that some of them were nominated. How we decided on who to feature was Driv would recommend some of his friends or some of the people he knows. I would recommend some of these like newer emerging artists that I'm seeing on Instagram and that I want to feature and give a bigger platform. Yeah, so one of these artists that I managed to feature was Sharon Chin, and like she, I couldn't gather, I couldn't like write a short write up about her, so it's a bit hard to like tell you right now like what her work is about. But for the magazine, she kind of introduced this like model for like a proposal for how the visual arts community can make decisions together. It's a decision-making process proposal. And like there's a lot of focus on decentralization, self-sufficiency, interdependence. So because like regarding the arts in Malaysia, and we're talking about like those official government institutions, it's very top down. Like we decide who we want to give this grant, this money to. We decide which art is worth our time and our money, which is not very good, not very conducive for the local arts. That's why Sharon was trying to propose this model that we artists or designers can practice ourselves. So one of the other more interesting bits about this magazine was that for the feature section, we got to how we did it, but like we just like somehow managed to convince like Fahmi to like sit down for an interview with us, and he's a really nice guy. And like I was preparing the interview questions. I was in charge of preparing the interview questions. I would go through them with Driv, and then yeah, he just sat down and talked to us for 3 hours about like all the work he did. And it was really nice. And then like after 3 hours of talking, and then like we took photos, shook hands, and then he just like left on his Vespa scooter. Like, oh, okay, interesting guy. So very lucky to be able to feature all these interesting people that are doing interesting work. So after the interview wrapped up, again, I mentioned, like, I'm not joking, it was like 3 hours. Like, I recorded the whole thing, it was 3 hours. So I had to transcribe all of that. I had to like write it down. And then afterwards, I had to sort of edit it for length and clarity. Because like, you know, like when you're interviewing someone face to face, it's gonna be like very casual, and there's a lot of ums and ahs, las and stuff. So like you need to like edit that out. So yeah, you can read I think this is available online, because the one request that Fahmi made was that he wanted to make sure this knowledge was shared to anyone. It wasn't like it not like you had to like pay to like read it. So we uploaded the PDF onto Drive somewhere. So if I can find it, I might share it with you guys. This is like the showcase section that I mentioned about. The one on the left is look, he's Malaysian. Marcus, I think I forgot which European country he was in, but like I think he just wrapped up his studies, and his textile works are very like really like culturally rich, full of culture, context, and personal meaning. It's really great stuff. the one on the right, that's Singaporean illustrator Vanessa Lim, and I just really love her style and her sense of humor, and it's really cute. Yeah, so again, like some of these artists were recommended by Driv, some of them were recommended by me. Okay, it's 10:45. So yeah, very fun. And then afterwards, we got them to like kind of like answer these set of questions, and they can do whatever they want with the questions and how they answer it. So you can see like their personalities showing through, which is really cute. I really like the one on the left, Darius Au. Darius Au is a Singaporean designer. And yeah, he just kind of did a self-portrait with nothing but GIFs. So that's cool. Yeah. Sorry, Driv asked me to do this, but like you can buy it. You can buy this magazine on their big cartel. I don't know when's the next time we will put out another magazine, because this takes a lot of time and effort. But yeah, you can buy it on you can buy the current issue on Big Cartel. Yeah, it's available there. So Driv, if you're seeing this, don't say that I'm not doing this. I'm doing this for you. Okay, next. Oh shit. Okay, KL Book Fair. There's so much. Okay, so like we have been participating in art book fairs around the region because we have our own books that we need to promote and sell. So art book fairs are a very good place to do this. And we've been doing them in like Bangkok, Singapore, even Tokyo. And we really, really like what we saw there. The art book scene, and I guess the art scene in general, that's really strong. It's big. There's like always someone new someone new to discover. And we really just wanted to bring that to KL, and yeah, and sort of experience that same like energizing community spirit, I guess. And we did. We pulled it off last year. Like we did everything ourselves. It was like 39 vendors, 1,600 tickets, all sold out. And like there was only only 5 of us on the team. And like, yeah, that was crazy. I'm really sometimes a bit hard to like wrap my head around, but we had talks, we had a little showcase upstairs just to show people what other artists overseas have been doing at these art book fairs, you know, and we really used up our network. Like we just kind of like encouraged all of our friends who we know, like that like their work is like really solid and strong and like good to like be shown at this art book fair. Like we really encourage them to apply. And yeah, so a lot of our old friends showed up, new friends, made a lot of new friends as well. And we we got to meet the people behind bogus merchandise, because they do silk screen. That was nice. And I guess like to really quickly explain like the visual concept, like because it's just like, you know, the book pages opening up, and then we just kind of like took those shapes and just like applied them all across posters, the event flyer. We had this little ticket here that the people at Alphabet Press helped us to like do the stamping and stuff. And we got our friend Michael Lim to animate the video to like sort of launch the ticket sales, and it was so well received. And then a lot of people liked the music, and like because it was like, yeah, it was a really fun video, and like that got us a lot of attention. And they just to like congratulate them, like they recently, because they submitted it for a D&AD, the animation, and they got a wood pencil. So yeah, congrats to Michael Lim, Driv Loo, and Marcus Lim. Michael and Marcus are brothers. Marcus did the music, Michael was the animation guy, and Driv obviously art directed it and stuff. Me and my friend Vanessa, we contributed a little bit of like the type design that you see towards the end. I mean, we really like, we were just doodling. I didn't think they would actually use it, but like, yeah, anyways. yeah, we did everything ourselves, like floor plans, scheduling, talks, the programming. I really tried my best to like it was my first time curating the program, so that was like a new learning experience for me. And I'm my boss isn't really I guess like he's not very great with speeches, so I had to like step up and do this opening speech as well. I mean, it's fine. I was nervous, but like I didn't puke, so it's I consider that a win. And I led the volunteers. It was really fun meeting all these different people, and I really just tried to the best of my abilities to like give them a great volunteer experience. Like what I want to make sure that they got enough experience and fun out of the whole thing, because it's very tiring. It's very tiring work, and considering how small our team was, like it's really amazing that we pulled it off. So special thanks to Driv. Sayin is like our administrative powerhouse. She's the one that sends out all the emails, like has to like get all these quotations and invoices from the suppliers and stuff. Carly Ann was our intern at the time, and Vanessa and Michael. So, and also special thanks to our volunteers. So many people from so many different backgrounds, like economics, radio. Like I can't believe like they devoted like the whole weekend off like just to help us with this event. Yeah, special thanks to these people. Oh, okay. Oh gosh, I think I need to like skip this part because we're already like nearing 11 o'clock, but like non-work stuff. Very quickly, I do a bit of collages. I guess it's kind of obvious from like the poster and like the first few pages, but like I have been collaging since 2015, just one of those small things I do for myself. I don't do it every day but like when I do it, like I really enjoy myself. And these were just some collages I did for a friend's podcast. So she would like interview her friends, and they would talk about like really personal like themes like family, insecurities and whatnot. And like each of the collages were supposed to reflect that particular episode's themes. And I think this is the first time where, because usually when I do collages, it's for myself and I just throw a bunch of paper together. So this one where you have a brief, where you have an actual brief and you have a theme that you need to follow. Like, so that really pushed me to like explore different styles and be more intentional with like the visuals and like the symbols and imagery that I'm using. That was fun. Yeah, some more. I like to use images from archives online. And I also like to use images from my personal archives. So the one that's on the left is an actual collage, and then the right is the photograph that I used to make the collage. It's a photo that we just have lying around the house, and I just decided to reuse it, recontextualize it. And sometimes I do this was like that one Creative Beats article that I wrote about bus tickets, because my mom collects bus tickets, and I noticed that there was a logic to the design of the bus ticket. So for example, you see this one, there's the clock, it indicates the time and it follows like the clock, the direction of the clock. So like, and so the bus, the ticket master could mark what time you got onto the bus and what time you got off. So that was cool. And I just wanted to like put that all together into like a really small article. So yeah, I think you can find it on Creative Beats. Enough about that. Okay, yeah, more collages. Okay, very quickly, I also recently I've been doing like some graphics for this youth organization where we sort of raise awareness on like specific on like social causes and stuff, because like like sometimes I don't want to do commercial work. I want to like use graphic design for social causes. So this is like a really this is just something that I told myself I wanted to do. So sometimes you need an article explaining the chain remand system, or the failures of like the like the prison system in Malaysia, or like I these heavier articles I do on Illustrator, because like that's where I do a lot of my work. But sometimes I have been also, because of after joining them, I've had to learn how to use Canva, because like you're dealing with people, NGOs, like people who have no formal design background, and if you give them like an Illustrator file, they don't know, they're not gonna know what to do with it. So you need to like be able to adapt to all these like different needs and stuff. So I had to like learn how to use Canva. This was for a campaign where they were going to like basically tear down a forest reserve, like it's already like designated as a forest reserve, but like the Selangor MB decided like, you know what, like scratch that, like let's build another mall on it or something, let's open it up. So they were trying to like stop that. I made some posters for them to like, so that they could like sort of post around on Twitter and like raise awareness, attention to it. And then they like, fortunately it worked, as in like the whole campaign, like not just the posters, like it was like a team effort. It was like months and months of like campaigning, and fortunately like there was enough pressure that the Selangor MB decided to like backtrack on his decision. And then sometimes like you just need a poster to like raise awareness about like, yeah, like, or for a campaign or whatnot. Like like last year there was like the Hartal doctor contract, because the contract doctors, they were not being treated very well, and we just wanted to like, I created that poster so that like, yeah, to put up on the social media. The one on the left is just recently it was to demand for like better protection for gig workers meaning like, yeah, you meant like those contract workers like Grab, hospital cleaners, and like just because they're contract workers, they're not full-time employees, or like, so they just kind of like, they get mistreated a lot more. So yeah, I did a lot more for under Missy, but like due to legal ramifications, I cannot share. But you can like check out their page to like check out all the other stuff that they've been doing. So yeah, finally, okay, we're here. Let me just. Right, okay. So before we go into like the notes to self, like just disclaimer, they're personal observations. I'm not speaking to you from like high above the clouds as some sort of like enlightened person. I'm just as someone who's been there. And like I think you can use them in whatever way that's best for you. You can apply them to your life in whatever way that works for you. So right. Just checking, like everyone's good, right? Sarah, Vinod, okay, yeah, okay. All right, I'll just continue. Okay.
Yep, all good.
All right, starting off strong. You don't hate graphic design, you hate capitalism. So let me explain. Like, I think there's like, maybe you're already getting you have heard a few of those inside jokes like, oh, client wants to make the logo bigger again, or like, oh, we have to like OT tonight again because like client wants a silly little like Instagram video wishing everyone Merry Christmas by tomorrow morning and things like that, or just like not having any work-life balance. Yeah, like there's the inside jokes, and then or maybe we talk to designers, like people who've been working in the industry for a while. They always say that like, oh man, I'm so tired, I want to quit, I want to like just move to a different country and become a farmer somewhere. So basically you hear about all of these, like you have all these inside jokes that are talking about like a lot of mistreatment, clients making unreasonable demands, that like you just hear about unreasonable clients demanding bosses and whatnot. And I think it's very natural to reach the conclusion that, oh, well, yikes, I hate like, geez, I hate graphic design. These are just symptoms. These are all symptoms of like a rotten, thankless industry. And I did reach that own conclusion myself at one point. I thought that like, maybe graphic design isn't if this is what graphic design is, then maybe it's not for me. But but to say that you hate graphic design, I feel like that's only like that's like half, you're almost reaching there, you're almost making like the actual point, like that's only half of the story, because like you don't hate graphic design, you just hate being exploited. You are being exploited under a capitalist system, just like all the other workers, like doctors, contract doctors, hospital cleaners, chefs, grad workers, like everyone is like being mistreated. And like because design is a service, and as long as you are providing a service under this capitalist system, clients are always going to try to save a few bucks by maybe undercharging you just so that they can make a higher profit for themselves. So that's why I say that graphic design in its current state, and specifically I'm commenting at least in Malaysia, I cannot comment on other countries. Graphic design is a race to the bottom, like I think it's like understandable. Sometimes you want to pay the bill, so you try to convince a client to work with you by maybe charging less. And but like at this point, with that, it being a race to the bottom, that means it's just going to suck for everyone except the client. They're just going to be like holidaying in Bali and like texting you like, hey, when's my post coming up? And like, you're just like rushing there in your bedroom or something. So I'm not trying to scare people away from design. I'm definitely not saying that like there's no point, everyone should give up. But what I want you guys to take away from this is that it sucks for everyone, and it's much easier if we all start standing up for each other. Because we need to start by reminding each other that you're worth more than your productivity. And basically there needs to be more solidarity between designers and between and like all the workers across all industries. So yeah, so that's my first notes to self, starting really strong there. Having said that, there's more than one way to be a graphic designer. Again, my point isn't that no one should be a graphic designer anymore if it's such a thankless industry, blah blah blah. But while we all start working towards change, I think it's a good time to like ask yourself like what this profession means to you, and what role do you want graphic design to play in your life, or not even graphic design. It could be like and maybe you do animation, maybe you do like maybe you make ads and stuff. It's like, so you get to decide what being a graphic designer means to you. This means identifying your values, your interests, like how you align with them and how you can combine them with your practice. Because graphic design can be a job, it can be like a life's passion. I get it when people say that like graphic design can change the world and stuff like that. Well, I mean, not alone, definitely not alone. Like it needs to be backed up with like other stuff. But like, it could be a skill set that you use to pursue other dreams and goals. Maybe you decide that like, graphic design isn't for me. I know people who decided to just become a florist, and they just use their graphic design degree to make all their name cards and set up their business, and that's fine. It's since I started working, it's been so interesting meeting all these different designers and seeing like how like some of them turn their interest into niche. There are designers who like design exclusively for music gigs or for cafes and stuff, and like people who design for NGOs. So for me, I've had this question, like I've had 3 years of experience so that I can actually reflect on this question. But considering that like most of you are like just students, maybe I think what this slide can mean is that like you guys should just do what you like, try everything, like just have fun, and then like eventually you start to notice like what sticks, what doesn't, and what you like and what you don't like. That's always a good start. So yeah, this one's for me. This is for me. Yeah, do you have time? I had a lot of anxieties with being a fresh graduate. I felt unprepared, unqualified. I didn't know anything, and I could no longer fall back on the safety net of being a student. Now you're a graduate, you're an adult, and if you mess up, then you have to own up to that mistake. So that felt scary. And then even after a whole year of working, I still had a lot of anxieties, like, am I doing enough? Should I start, am I supposed to be joining competitions and trying to win awards by now? Or do I still don't like vector illustration. Will I ever grow to like it, or will I at least improve on it in time? Should I have started a side hustle by now? I'm barely putting out any work. How will anyone ever notice me? So I had a lot of insecurities, and maybe because of those insecurities, I wasn't as proactive as I should have been. I was definitely scared, and maybe I stayed in one place for too long. And there was definitely some wasted potential and some wasted opportunities there. I was also mentally struggling. But I mean, having said that, I'm very happy with where I am right now. I don't obsess over all of that lost time anymore, because it wasn't lost time. I'm right where I need to be and with people I care about. And that's all that matters at this point. All of those, yeah, you didn't miss out on anything. It's not too late. You still have time. I think also with social media, there's a lot more peer pressure, right? You see your peers, you see what everyone is doing at the same time simultaneously. So there's going to be a lot of pressure. But if you think back to maybe a few decades ago, there was none of this pressure. All of this pressure didn't even existed. You didn't have the internet to check on what your peers are doing in New York and such. So yeah, you really you have time, and then and objectively speaking, you can and will improve over time. That's what happens when you just sit down at your desk and do the same thing over and over again for the next 3 years. That's how I improved with my design. So yeah, I mean, every mistake, every attempt is not wasted. They're all just further contribute to your life experience, your practice. You'll be fine. So yeah. Oh, okay. I don't need to explain this. Rest is important. That's why I'm on the break. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm on this break is that I worked myself to the bone last year, especially with KL Art Book Fair. And I just want to make sure I'm well rested enough to do the next one. So rest in this case, especially in these instances, resting is one of the most productive things you can do. I know students, when we're trying to rush assignment deadlines, maybe we have to pull through and just kind of hold it out for the next week or so. But this is just gonna keep happening again when you work. So I think it's a good time to figure out your body, what are its boundaries and how much it can take, so that you can decide to say no and take a break when you need to. Also, burnout sucks. No one wants to go through that. Yeah, just don't. Rest, please. Okay, very quickly, notes to you. We're nearing the end. I will keep this quick. Okay, yeah, it's 11:08, right? So so all that talk about you don't hate graphic design, you hate capitalism. So I will say, stand up for each other. Do not, there's a lot of things that could be better. Pay could be better, working hours, work-life balance could be better. But and I hear a lot of people complaining, but it feels like everyone's just waiting for something to happen, without actually doing without actually doing the necessary work to see that change happen. So because it's I would, and I'm paraphrasing, this was a quote I found, I forgot the source, but to paraphrase, it says that don't build your hopes for revolution or change, or don't hope that things will get bad enough to make people act. Worsening conditions are not what empowers people to act. Strong networks of care and support that build up our collective capacity those are the things that tell us like that, that tell us that, hey, like actually this isn't right and we're worth more than our productivity. So, and we have to create those networks of support ourselves. We need to, that's why we need to start standing up for each other. Don't, when I think of this slide, I think of all my friends. I think of all the ways that we've supported each other's careers and projects over the years. So I think that's a very good way, that's a good starting point. Just start supporting your friends, and talk to them, yeah, support them. Ask questions. So I think it's a good practice to think critically about your practice, and to constantly reflect on your process. It's like maybe I did a lot of like I asked myself a lot of questions like, do I work better in noisy, like lively environments or quieter environments? Like what's my routine? Like how do I approach a design brief? And like, I think you need to ask yourself these kind of questions so that you can, it's good. It's really good to know. Otherwise, like maybe 5 years has passed and it's like, oh, and you finally kind of snap out of it. It's like, and you're tired. And it's like, oh, it's I guess it's just, yeah, it's just good to be mindful, to be self-aware about like your practice and stuff. Also, asking questions could mean like continuing to learn, expanding your horizons, you know, going out, getting out of your bubble every once in a while. Read a book. Reading is sexy. Reading takes more time and it definitely requires more of your focus. So it's a very mindful sort of consumption. Even magazines, like they force you to slow down. But obviously, you know, like learn in whichever way is best for you. If you think that you are a very kind of podcast kind of person, then that's fine. So yeah, finally do good. Very cheesy, I know, but like it's true. Like just share whatever resources you can with each other, whether it's your time, your energy, or your money. If that's on the cards for you, you can consider using graphic design for social causes. Like me, I mean, that's a very straightforward way to do good, right? And like, yeah, just be kind. I'm very lucky to have met so many kind, supportive people throughout my career, and I'm not, and also I'm not saying I'm not perfect, you know. I've said hurtful things. I've hurt people's feelings, and like sometimes I get really upset thinking about those. I kind of feel a bit of shame or regret and stuff. But like I just try to focus on the people around me, and then I just start again from there. So yeah. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for this lovely, lovely presentation. It was so insightful and so interesting to see your entire progress so far. Like, especially someone who's about to enter my final year of my degree. It's really, really comforting to know your experiences and how you managed to get through it. It was really very, very interesting. So thank you so much for taking this time out and helping all of us out with your great insights. Yeah, as you can see, everyone's also quite happy. So I would, if anyone has any questions they would like to speak out, you can raise your hand. Or if you've typed it in, if you've typed it in the chat, then I'll read them out for you as well.
Oh, I mean, I think I'm just quickly going through the chat. I do see one question, but I also have the same problem where like every time I go for a talk and they go around the room, does anyone have any questions? Please put forward. And I'm just like, I'm still digesting the contents of the talk.
Yeah.
So I have some sample questions you can ask me. I mean,
oh, wow.
I think some of them are jokes. Don't actually ask me the personal ones. But I guess if you do ask me, I will try my best to answer them seriously. But like, yeah, these are. I'm trying to like help you guys out. Like, yeah, these are questions you can ask me.
So Sam, we have collated some questions that Siwet's gonna ask you.
Yes.
So the first one, someone asked quite early on in your presentation, and it was how like how she said, hi, I would love to know how you motivate yourself to do better and keep going when you're at your lowest. This was in reference when you were talking about the Daily Fix Cafe.
Oh, yeah. Mm. Oh, and then where do I get my inspirations
Yes.
from?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just try to think back to what happened with Daily Fix. Okay, so I was feeling demotivated. I don't think I was very good at seeking the support I needed yet. So I would say that like at that point, I should have talked to my coworkers a bit more instead of keeping it all in. Because maybe there's like a lot of, I know I had a lot of shame. It was like, shit, I messed up. I didn't like nail it this time and the client doesn't like it. So I think I was like keeping it in for too long. So I would say don't do that. That definitely doesn't do anything but except to demotivate you further. I think now I just lately, like with any sort of like disappointment or setback, I just kind of talk it out to my friends and like so that you're not bearing that, you need to share that burden and how to keep going when you're at your lowest. Yeah, like a lot of times when I just want to like, when I'm feeling really down, I'm just thinking and then like maybe, okay, I have like a really bad day at work today, and then tomorrow I go out for a cute little brunch with my friends, and then I'll be thinking, okay, fine, life is worth it. There's a lot to live for. Okay, like, so I would say that's how I keep myself going. It's like just to keep relying back on my friends for their support, whether or not they are from the same industry as you, or maybe like just high school friends and stuff. Yeah. And where do you get your inspirations from? I would say, I'm not sure if it's obvious, but I do like, yeah, I do love my history, visual culture, anything that has a lot of culture and context and history to it. So that's why I guess like a lot of my designs tend to be, especially the collages, like a lot of them tend to be quite nostalgic. And it's because of like, I just keep looking at all these old photographs and old packaging. So that's a very quick answer for that. Like, obviously I could go on and on, but yes, that's the first question.
Thank you. As of course, if anything we can learn from your talk today is the most important thing is to reach out and support, even if it's not easy, ask for help. So the second question is in regards to your Ono identity. It was, do you find that the modern minimalistic look has less appeal in terms of making a human connection or in terms of human connection?
I kind of want to ask like the person to give me a bit, to elaborate a bit more on that question, because I'm pretty sure they have a reason why they're asking that.
Okay, this is where I step in. That was
Yes,
my question.
okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think I was looking at the work that you did for the daily, what was that, Daily Fix, and in comparison to the work that you did for the Niko Neka, right? One was extremely minimalist, and I would even venture to say a little coldish in nature, right? Whereas the other one was extremely warm and happy, and well, it seemed that way, at least visually. So, I mean, do you see, do you see a different effect here? I mean, is one more or one easier to connect to while the other is not so?
I will try to, I think I can, at least I can maybe explain why I think the ones like all those retro designs are a bit more easier to, like a bit more, they feel warmer.
Yes.
Like, I guess it's really because of the context that went into these designs. Like, when you're taking your inspiration from history, like you're gonna like history, there's like history has been like let me try to gather my thoughts. Like all that time, all that history, all those layers of time and history and culture and context, you can't really replicate that. Like that's not something that you can that can be easily imitated, and like with history, there's also a lot of personal meaning to these sort of things, and I guess I would say that's probably why it's like, that's why we have nostalgia, right? It's like, oh, thinking back to like simpler times and stuff, and you're gonna bound to like feel a bit warmer inside, like having that nostalgia. I'm because like my personal style preferences lean towards these sort of like retro, like historical designs, and like my designs, that's why my designs also like tend to lean on the warmer side lah. So I can't really comment on the minimalism aesthetic, simply because I'm not familiar with that. It's just like I just kind of like respect it from afar. It's like, yes, like that's not my thing, but like I respect, I guess. Don't really know how to like. I feel like that. I think that deserves like a whole dissertation because this is
true enough. Thank you very much. Sheer, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ron. So moving on to the next question: what are difficult clients like? How do you deal with difficult clients?
Difficult clients. I mean, there's so many ways you can be difficult, right? And they all require different approaches. But I think, I mean, usually I would say I would try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Usually, if it happens the first few times, like, I don't think you need to like you don't have to immediately write them off as like difficult yet, like maybe like they're just having a difficult time to like understand the language, or just like understand the vision that you have and whatnot. Because this is such a general question. If you ask me how to deal with clients that overstep your boundaries, then I can give very specific answers. But I think
maybe what will help is if you probably illustrate a scenario that you have actually gone through, where you have encountered a difficult situation and maybe how you dealt with that.
Okay, actually, let's talk about the daily fix one, right? That was difficult because the client didn't really know what they wanted. Like, they had a very rough idea, as long as it looked like they belonged to the daily fix family, that's like, it should look retro, but that's just about all they kind of know. I remember feeling very frustrated whenever clients cannot give me specific feedback. They'll just say, "Oh, okay, nice, continue," and I'm just like, can you elaborate? Like, is that it? And with the daily fix, I don't think they're in this talk, right? So I can like speak freely. But like, I remember the client, whenever he didn't like a design, like when he knew that maybe like this design wasn't working for him, but he felt too bad to like point it out, which is a very unique situation. He was like, basically, he felt like, it's like, oh, do I want to tell them? Like, and that, unfortunately, that all accumulated up to that point where, I mentioned halfway through, they said that I think he couldn't take it anymore, and then he just called up my boss one night. It's like, hey, this isn't working out. With that instance, we just like, okay, that sucks that he waited so long to tell us this. But with these kind of clients, we just had to be patient and like just try to like, that's why we restarted again. So but like I've also I've worked with people where they are very lenient with the clients. They kind of let the clients step all over them. That's not nice. I personally wouldn't want to waste my time like that. I would have just like politely stopped, especially if it was not going anywhere. I've had clients where I've heard about clients who like, they say they want to rebrand, but every time, like, as you keep giving them all these like proposals, like, here's how you can change the logo, and it's like, no, like, this isn't working. How about this? And it's exactly the same logo as like their old one. So it's just like, I think with those, like, you just need to like know when to call it quits.
Yeah, definitely. I think that also does kind of answer the next question, which was, how do you help clueless clients who don't know what they want? So yeah, I think then we can move on to somebody asked if you have a Behance or Instagram, someplace we can see your work and support your work.
Yeah, I'm more active on Instagram, although I'm not currently putting out any work there, but I guess if you want to see my cat photos and my shit, like, you can just follow me. You can just search up my name. Literally, like, yeah, just search up my name on, oh shit, I think I accidentally sent someone a direct message. Let me type it again. Okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just search me up on Instagram. It should be the same on Behance as well, but
Yeah.
Behance is not as updated.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then next question. They asked from your list of questions. Number 2, your favorite artists or designers?
Off the top of my head, there is this is he American? He's an illustrator, and like, I don't have photos right now of his work, but basically it's all pencil drawings and a bit of collage. And what I like about Hilaire Goodspeed is that it's just it's so silly, it's so funny. Maybe you're noticing that I really like when artists have a sense of humor. And it's like, you look at it, it's like, that's a silly little guy. I like him. I want to buy that print. That's why I like Hilaire Goodspeed. I would love to make more art like that. Whatever that means. But like, yeah, that's my, I think if anyone asks me that question, I will just keep saying this name. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, and the next question, also from your list, any dream projects?
I really want to do a mural one day, because it's a very tactile experience, like, and obvious, and like, I learned art with like, I started art with like a pencil, right? Like using hands and stuff. I didn't start with digital art. So I think if I had to choose, like, I would still always go back to like analog. So like pencil on paper. That's just that's where I feel most comfortable. That's so to sort of do it on a larger scale, like a mural, that would be really fun, and it would be really cute. And if I could put in an Easter egg, a really big Easter egg, that would be even better.
Yeah, definitely. I relate with that because I'm so tired of doing everything on Photoshop now. Next question, your views about copying / plagiarism, and the person emphasized that, what about like basically feeling the imposter syndrome when designing?
Copying, can the person like Rebecca, right? Like, if you could you like elaborate a little bit more about your question? You can type it on the chat, or you can like open your mic. It's fine.
I assume she's typing.
I can answer the next question first, and then I'll come back to Rebecca.
Yeah, so number 9, what was your experience as a fresh graduate?
Oh, I was terrified. I was scared shitless. I remember putting a lot of pressure on myself to like get a proper job. It's like, oh, I'm a fresh graduate now. I need to get a proper job. And I was just putting myself under so much unnecessary stress. And then even after I got the job at Lai, for the first 2 months, I was just like, am I doing this right? Like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And like, that was not nice. The reason why I put this question up hoping someone might ask me is because like, I just want to tell people that like I was scared shitless. I didn't know what I was doing. And I think maybe you guys just need to hear that from someone who's been in the industry for a while, but like, yeah, I've been there. And eventually I snapped out of it. I think I guess I'm lucky that I had a boss that was very patient with me. And I will say that that place, Lai, was a very good place to sort of learn and make mistakes, not telling you to purposely make mistakes, but like, because my boss was so patient with me, I was better able to learn. I knew that I would not be able to handle a high stress environment like an agency.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my experience as a graduate. Okay.
Yeah. Rebecca hasn't gotten back to me yet, but
Okay.
Brittany did ask me, have you already, did you already live in an artistic environment while you were young? But have you been, sorry, have you already started living in a more artistic environment than from when you were young? Did it help your skills in designing and stuff? Because a lot of people, they don't have any skills and they just do a design course and they struggle with their assignments. So did the environment play a huge part in your upbringing?
So I mentioned, I think someone also asked, oh, did I ever take art lessons as a child? So I guess I can kind of combine these few questions. So I mentioned that I've been doing art as a child, but like, just like kids doodles. And I was like a pure science student up until high school. My family background, I'm the only arts person in the house. Everyone else, my parents, my mom was a chemist. My dad was just like really just like typical like business person. So, my mom, she really liked fashion, and she had her own opinions about taste and style. So that's where I got it from. And I would just sort of by proxy absorb whatever she liked. I would just sort of pay attention to it. That's whether that's like a fashion magazine or a really pretty packaging, like a biscuit packaging, for example.
Yeah.
So sorry, I think I need help. Could you like repeat the other question? I feel like I was like trying to get to a point here.
So Brittany asked that have you already started living in a more artistic environment than when you were young, and did it help improve your skills?
Yeah, definitely. Like just by being close to now that I'm in the industry and like being closer to all these people, you're bound to like absorb all these influences. You're gonna like my boss, for example. I think the first time my design world properly opened was during my internship, because I think when I was in Taylor's, I definitely I was like learning to improve my technical skills and my vocabulary. But it was only when I interned, when I was actually in the industry, that like my visual language and my internal like library just sort of like opened up and expanded exponentially. Like Driv was telling me, oh, you should check out this artist, check out that artist, and then you see what he's doing, and then you kind of like take down notes. So definitely like I'm like now I'm even more like artsy. Like maybe in 2-3 years I'll have like tattoos all over my arm. So I was just like, yeah, it's natural. It's bound to happen.
Yeah. So Brittany told answer your question. Yes, she did start living in a more environment. Because she did ask in the end that people who don't have artistic skills, obviously being in a more creative environment definitely helps improve your skills. So yeah. And then somebody asked from number 17, how do you approach a design brief?
Oh, someone actually asked me that. Okay, this one, I think it's good to know I forgot the name of that, because it's like, you know how we all have like, oh, I'm an introvert and I'm an extrovert. You know, you have all these like labels to like kind of help you identify like your personality. There's also this label for like, there's this quiz, I think Mr. Vinod made us take it like a long time ago. It was like, how do we learn? Like, how do we absorb information and knowledge? So when I took the quiz, it said that I'm a very like words person. So to answer that question, when I start with a design brief, I really read the brief, and based on that, I try to get I really try to form this mental map. It could, I mean, it could be a word map, but like, yeah, just a map of like what the client wants. Because I'm very big picture. So I'll probably start brainstorming a lot of words. I'll just like start writing words that come up when I read the brief. And then from there, I just sort of, because because like when I say this, like you notice that the first thing I'm not going onto Pinterest the moment I get the brief. I try to avoid that. Like the visual language comes later. Like to me, the concept is very important. So that's why I don't want to like let myself be influenced by accidentally scrolling through Behance or in Pinterest and like being influenced by all these styles. And then like maybe I'll start to like, my brain will start to like convince me, hey, this style is cute. Do you want to like try and put it in this brief?
Definitely.
But maybe that's not what that's not what the brief needs. That's not what the brief requires. So like, again, I just keep falling back to the brief. Words, yeah, that's how I approach a design brief.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because a lot of times when we get an assignment, the first thing we do is go on Pinterest and find a reference.
I don't recommend that. You're already like restricting yourself.
Exactly.
Like then you get like obsessed over this one Pinterest thing that you see, and it's like, oh, this is so cute. I want to do this for my assignment. But like, you know, I think you can try. I would say like, I'm not like saying that Pinterest is bad, but like maybe try to switch things up a little. Okay, I think Rebecca.
She followed up with the imposter syndrome question.
Yes.
So basically, if you like a certain graphic design, how do you make your artwork not be a copy, and how do you not feel that way that you're just copying and that you do actually have original intent?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That's one of the reasons why I put the question up. When I started working, I noticed that like sometimes my friend, like she like people, especially people who put their work out there, and then sometimes like you notice like, hey, this is like very similar to this other person or that other person, and like I would say you can't avoid it. It's very hard to come up with completely original designs right now, given the internet and the way it's sort of taken a hold of like how we design. Like you know, the first thing a lot of people do when they start on a project, they look on Pinterest. So that means that it's much easier to end up having the same design as someone else. So I don't try to like, I'm not trying to condemn every single person that maybe accidentally does that. It happens to the best of us, as long as like, you know, I think like your intentions really matter with this. So I think it's great that you're really asking this question, because that means you're trying to be more mindful, be more aware of not letting this happen. So it's okay to like certain graphic styles, and I also think that it's a good way to like improve your skills when you like, because when you try to like copy when you try to practice by copying a specific poster, like, oh, I really like how they did that. So like if you do it as a personal practice, that's great. So again, like I think you really need to keep asking yourself questions like, why do I like this? Like, why do I hate that? what other, like, how can I combine my own interests, my own flavor, my own personality or sense of humor or whatever into this design? Because like the style, it's like I feel like, yeah, when it's a style, it's all that means you're kind of like implying that it's a template, which is it's a blank canvas. It's a good thing. That means you can kind of turn it into your own. So and when you do that, then people can tell, as in like people will know that you're trying different things. You're not trying to like just copy, just blindly copy.
Yeah.
It's a very like gray, like it's not a simple black and white sort of topic. There's a lot of nuance to that, but I think I'll just wrap it up there, because otherwise, yeah, it's a very complicated subject.
So I don't see any other questions, so last call.
What am I looking for? Oh, okay. Someone asked, what am I looking forward to this year? I am looking forward to, can I say it? I'm looking forward to KL Art Book Fair 2022. Like, I'm, like excited to see what we come up with this year. And like, I'm excited to sort of meet people again. I'm excited to be part of the community and like helping the community again, like design community, I mean. And like I'm not gonna, obviously I can't give details, but like yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I didn't get to go last year.
I heard, because some of the students were having their assignment submissions,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So don't worry, there's no ticket. It's not like, as in there's no slots this year. So it's gonna, because now that we're easing into this, like the restrictions are easing, so it's gonna be more like walk-in style, but you still need an entry ticket. But yeah. Okay, I've already said enough.
All right, so okay, so I think that's all. Mr. Vinod did ask a question, but I guess we'll save that for later then.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, for attending, and thank you so much, Sam, for taking this time. Hello. Okay.
Yep.
So
hello.
Hi. Yep. Yeah, I can still hear both of you. I just wanna thank Sirit for doing an excellent job of moderating the session. I think it's been wonderful to hear and see you manage the session. So I think that's great. Hopefully in future we'll get other students to do the same. And if we can't find other students, we'll come back to you, Sirit.
Yeah, no problem.
No, but we'll give an opportunity to others. I'm sure there's others out there as well. Maybe they can be like 2 people moderate the session. Yeah. And I would like to, from the bottom of my heart, thank Sam for sharing all her experiences and heartfelt points, because I think they were well worth the time. And not only that, they were precious, because some of the things that was said was extremely spot on. And I think a lot of the students who go into the industry eventually are going to face that. And hopefully they would remember what has been said here, and the advice that was given, and the experiences that were shared. And when they do go in and they face those same circumstances, they'll feel that they know that they were not the only ones. And hopefully that would allow them a little bit of leeway, and a little bit of, they would take a little bit of the weight off their, the feelings that they're enduring. So with that, I think I'm done. I'll hand it over to our excellent moderator back again, Sirit, and then the final word for Sam, and then we are done.
So just same for me. Thank you so much. This is so helpful. As I mentioned, about to enter my final year, and I'm feeling that scared about what to do next. So thank you so much. Super comforting to know that it's normal and you can get over it. So yeah, thank you so much. Any final notes from you?
I guess like I guess I'm just like I'm honestly just really glad that like a lot of you are finding this helpful. It's because I guess like when I started on these slides, I kept thinking like, what did I needed to hear when I was about to graduate, and like and also yeah, I'm really glad because like if it helped you even a little bit, then that means all those like nights staying out doing these slides were worth it. I also want to say very quickly that I don't know what like Mr. Vinod's impression of me as a student was, but I feel like I don't know, I felt like I was maybe I have a lot of doubts and insecurities as a student, and like I what am I trying to say? I feel like a late bloomer sometimes, but I still remember to this day like when like Mr. Vinod, like I think he was giving the sort of like end of the semester like review for your work and stuff, and then he said that like he he said that I am very quietly determined, and I felt so seen and validated because it's like maybe I don't really maybe this is my insecurity talking, but I felt like I didn't really stand out immediately to other people in campus, maybe, or like, you know, because I was just so in my head, I was just so stuck in my head and just so worried about doing my work properly and correctly and stuff, and like that gets in the way sometimes. But like when like Mr. Vino pointed that out, like I really like I just kind of like remembered it to this day, and like yeah, it's just so it's okay to not figure everything out right now, because like you still have time. Yeah, it's okay to be a late bloomer.
All right. Thank you so much. I agree. Praise from Mr. Vinod is always very special. So that is the end of our session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It was a great time. Yeah, so thank you so much. Have a good day ahead, and maybe we'll see you again sometime. Thank you.